chapter 26. This is the second time that King Saul is after David again. So let's read the story. Chapter 26, verse 1. The Ziphites went to Saul at Gibeah and said, "Is not David hiding in the hill of Hakaliah, which faces Jezreel?" So Saul went down to the desert of Ziph with his 3,000 select Israelite troops to search there for David. Saul made his camp beside the road on the hill of Hakaliah facing Jezreel. But David stayed in the wilderness. When he saw that Saul had followed him there, he sent out scouts and learned that Saul had definitely arrived. Then David set out and went to the place where Saul had camped. He saw where Saul and Abner is his general over the 3,000 soldiers, son of Ner, the commander of the army, they were sleeping. They had lain down. Saul was lying inside the camp with the army encamped around him. So you put your king in the middle. You got 3,000 soldiers wrapped around your king to protect him. This reminds me of a chess game. So David, verse 6, then asked Ahimelech the Hittite, these are two of his friends, and Abishai, son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, who will go down into the camp with me to Saul? Now, this is a suicide mission. I don't know what David is thinking, but David's thinking, let's sneak down. Let's go through 3,000 soldiers and get to Saul. The other guy was smarter. The first guy, his first friend, he was like, no way. But Abishai goes, I know this is ridiculous. We shouldn't be doing it, but I'll do it with you. Next week's sermon, by the way, you don't want to miss. It'll be part 2 it'll be about Abishai. Verse 7, so David and Abishai went to the army by night, and there was Saul lying asleep inside the camp with his spear stuck in the ground near his head. Abner and the soldiers were lying around him. Abishai said to David, today, God has delivered your enemy into your hands. Let me pin him to the ground with one thrust of the spear. It'll only take me one shot. I won't need 2 shots. We'll do him in right here with the spear, right? But then suddenly David, verse 9, said to Abishai, don't destroy him, don't kill him. Who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed and be, in the NIV it says, and be guiltless? As surely as the Lord lives, he said, the Lord himself will strike him. Or his time will come and he will die. He'll die of old age or die of cancer or whatever, okay? A heart attack. We all have an appointment with death. Or he'll go into battle and perish. But the Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. Now get the spear and water jug that are near his head and let's go. So David took the spear and water jug near Saul's head and they left. No one saw or knew about it, nor, this is an amazing verse right here. This is an amazing verse. I'm not preaching on it, but it's amazing. Verse 11. But the Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on verse 12. So David took the spear and water jug near Saul's head, and they left. No one saw or knew about it, nor did anyone wake up. They were all sleeping because the Lord had put them into a deep sleep. Now somehow God revealed to David, that was a stupid thing you did. That was a suicide mission. If I hadn't given them sleeping medicine, those soldiers would have woken up, they would have been awake, and you would have been dead meat. You would have been killed. But God said, I moved in the background, and I put them all to sleep so that none of them woke up. I like this. You know I'm a free will person. So it's like God didn't violate their free will, but he helps David and Abishai to creep in there by putting them all to sleep. I predict that someday we're going to stand before God in heaven, and God's going to show each one of us how often he was helping us out behind the scenes. David and Abishai thought, oh, hey, look they're all sleeping. We're so good at sneaking in. And the Lord's like, you were horrible. If I hadn't put them to sleep, you'd be dead. I'm telling you, I have a funny feeling God protects us on the road all the time. When you get the flat tire, you got the flat tire because God knew there'd be an accident down the road that you'd be in and be killed. Your job, he's working, the people you meet. He's working behind the scenes doing things. We don't know it now, but all things work for the good to those who love the Lord. All right, let's go on. Then David crossed over to the other side, verse 13, and stood on top of the hill some distance away. There was a wide space between them. He called out to the army and to Abner, son of Ner, aren't you going to answer me, Abner? The general said, well, who are you who calls to the king? David said, you're a man, aren't you? And you are a mighty warrior. Who is like you in Israel? You're the general. Why didn't you guard your lord the king? Someone came to destroy your lord the king. What you have done is not good. As surely as the Lord lives, you and your men must die because you did not guard your master, the Lord's anointed. Look around you. Where are the king's spear and water jug that was near his head? Do you follow this? So that's their job, is to protect the king. You don't protect the king, you fall asleep on the job, you die. I was reading a story about a soldier, and was shared by this person himself. So he was on the night duty. The rest of his platoon was sleeping, and his job was to stay awake and to protect, to watch for the enemy. And so that night, he kind of fell asleep. I know what it's like. It probably happened 2, 3 in the morning because I was a midnight security guard. That's when it hit me. His commanding officer got up and decided to check on his soldier. And when he went, he sees the soldier sleeping. So the commanding officer went and took the gun, his rifle, off of him. And then he walked a little ways away, and then he said, soldier, are you sleeping? And of course, what did he say? No, he was praying. He's a Christian soldier. So he was like, no, General, I wasn't. But then when he saw the general holding his own rifle at him, he said, just this sick feeling came over me when I realized this guy got my gun out of my hands and was now pointing it at me. And so I couldn't get away with, I was praying, and he realized just that easy the enemy could have come in and done me in, and all the rest of the guys. And his commanding officer did not. He could have got court-martialed right there and put into jail or thrown out for falling asleep. It wasn't his general. The commanding officer said to him, don't do it again, okay? And obviously extended grace. But that's what David is saying to all those men. You all need to be court-martialed because you didn't protect your king.